Hi everyone, my name is George Rhodes. As Mark introduced, I'm the director of AllAble. We're an accessibility company. We offer various auditing training services and things, and it is the guise under which I spend a lot of my time looking at accessibility statements for my own kind of personal research. I'm a male. I'm, as Mark said, sat in front of a very large collection of books in my own personal library. I'm wearing a reddish shirt, a blue waistcoat. I've got a scraggly beard and mustache and long hair, all of which I grew back over the multiple lockdowns. So today, I'd like to talk to you about accessibility statements across the UK public sector. This covers quite a range of organisations, local government, universities, other higher and further education institutes, NHS, police forces, fire and rescue services, and many, many others. I'll just press the button, so hopefully my slides move on. There we go, yay. Yeah, there we go. Took a second. So for those of you who don't know, accessibility statements are a legal document that all public sector bodies are now required to have for all of their existing and new websites. It covers a number of things. It's required to show the level of compliance for a website, what known issues there are, and how users can get help or report accessibility problems. It forms a main deliverable of the public sector bodies, websites, and mobile applications accessibility regulations, as has been talked about a lot in this session already. And it also forms part of the European Web Accessibility Directive. So with that definition slide out of the way, let's talk about the interesting stuff. So I've been looking at accessibility statements now for just over a year. We began this research back in September 2019. Back then we looked at about 600 websites. Now I'm up to 1,802 with the latest research. Over previous iterations, we've expanded it beyond the UK. So we've looked at many statements across the United Kingdom, but also looked at Denmark, Luxembourg, Spain, and the Netherlands. The Netherlands is a map that is not published yet, but we've been working in conjunction with a company called 200 OK, run by a guy called Jules Ernst in the Netherlands. Fantastic guy. I suggest people go and check out his stuff as well. So the Netherlands map will be coming soon. But what I'm trying to say is I've spent an awful lot of time reading a lot of accessibility statements. It seems to be my hobby as of the last year. So with that, we've gotten a really good idea of what makes a good statement, what you need to put in to be compliant. And I asked GES a lot of questions. They're probably bored of me, but it's helped us try to map and understand the level of compliance across the UK. So version 4 released today. Oh, I'm having trouble with my buttons today, it seems. Version 4 released today. As I've said, it covers 1,802 organisations. And this is a really, really important one because it's covered organisations after the latest deadline for the regulations, which means now that all of the organisations have to be compliant for websites, both existing and new. So out of that 1,802, the split is 207 compliant statements, 393 good attempts, which is somewhere in the region of kind of 80 to 90% compliant, 197 partial attempts, which is about halfway in terms of the number of specifically legally required bits of information a statement needs, 581 poor attempts, which means people have some accessibility information on their website, but it's falling far short of what's required to deliver a compliance statement, and still 424 examples where there is no accessibility information available on the website. So some shocking figures there, sadly. I apologize for the next couple of slides because it's all graphs and they're really, really complicated. I don't want to spend hours talking through these. I don't have the time, but the main trends I'd like to pull out are a couple of things. First off, we can see a a odd drop in compliance for some of the really early adopters in our research, such as local government, universities and police forces. I think this is down to the fact that, having looked at all of these statements, many of these early adopters got their statements out of the way early, did a really good job in getting the content there as early as possible. But because of that, where the compliance requirements have changed over time, they're still on old statement templates, and therefore they've lost some of that compliance that they did have previously. So we've seen a bit of a drop. I'll get onto that in the next slide as well, about how that's kind of being picked up by good attempts. But conversely to that drop, we've seen some later adopters, such as the colleges and the NHS, and also especially the industry regulators, massive increases in the number of compliance statements, particularly NHS and the industry regulators, who have both shot up quite significantly from less than 10% up to 15 to 25% compliance. So some great leaps there. One of the things on compliance that I want to say is, one of the other areas that we've been picking up through this research is the claims to compliance, not just whether the statement itself delivers on what is required, but what the organisations themselves are actually claiming for the compliance of the website against WCAG 2.1 AA. So each website and each statement is required to say whether they are fully, partially or not compliant. And there's been some interesting outcomes of those figures in the research. Oddly enough, whether it is through a partial or non-compliant claim, or through their omittance of any claim because they have no statement or it's of poor quality, 96% of all of the 1,802 websites that I looked at are not claiming full compliance with the regulations. So even though we're getting some great figures on people having good accessibility statements there and compliant accessibility statements, the actual compliance of websites with the technical standards is still incredibly low, and very few people are claiming that they are fully compliant with the technical requirements of these regulations. So onto the next slide. This is the kind of positive bit, though, I think. This is another graph. It's a bar chart. Each pair of bars represents, for each given sector, the previous compliant and good statements versus the good and compliant statements from this round. So we've seen raises pretty much across the board, apart from the DACs. Really commendable that local government and police forces now, with their good and compliant statements, which is 80 to 99%, compliant statements, including both categories, are now above 50%. Police, who I have commended several times in the past for their use of a single platform, now up to over 60%, about 65% good statements. Local government, universities and fire and rescue services as well, all hitting near that 50% mark. Massive increase for fire and rescue services, which is fantastic to see. Colleges, a good amount of growth, now above 10% for them, given that that's 400 organisations, but still far behind the curve of some of the others. I know they've had less kind of engagement and awareness raising, but it's still an area that definitely needs some work. NHS and regulators, I'd really like to commend as well. Massive growth for each of those, especially the NHS with everything else that's going on at the moment. It's really nice to see their web teams taking the accessibility of their digital estates seriously as well. And then one final one on this slide that I'd like to mention is the local council associations. So these represent parish and town councils. And as we heard earlier in the day, Chris Heathcote mentioning that GDS has been talking to many of these small organisations, such as the parish and town councils, such as GP surgeries. It's really nice to see that these associations have taken some really good steps to act as role models to their members by publishing good and compliant statements. So they're up to about 45% also publishing good statements as well. I'd like to talk about some common pitfalls. There's still many things that I think kind of need to be addressed. First two things, disproportionate burden claim and focusing on the legal wording too much. I've now seen more than 300 claims, 275 of which are live at the moment. As again, we heard earlier today from Chris, one of those being the EASS, which I think may need to be looked into a little bit further, given that they are the main reporting point for these regulations. But there's an awful lot of misuse and many common mistakes that I see with disproportionate burden claims. I've done some research on it before, which is available on our website. But one of the next things that we're going to be doing is looking at these 275 claims, looking at what evidence people have provided for those claims, and seeing what advice we can provide to help people do better disproportionate burden claims and not keep making the same mistakes. And again, that second point on legal wording, these documents can be very legal heavy. We have to remember that it's at the end of the day about providing good, useful information to users about what doesn't work with the service and what they can do to get around that and still have a good experience. So I think that's about it. All of the research is now available on our website. It all went live today. I really encourage people to go and check it out. If you know anything about statements from other countries I've not looked at yet, please contact me. We're really trying to grow the European community around this. And please feel free to reach out. We're on various social media, email us or find us on the website. And again, as mentioned, also check out Jules Ernst, who is our Netherlands contact as well, who's working on the Netherlands map that we will be publishing soon. Okay, thank you very much.